Is that too loud?
No.
This is channel 1, HH1. Sorry about that. Is this better? Is this better? Okay.
Good.
So the astute observer will notice I'm not a woman, but I am an entrepreneur. And I wanted to start this off by talking about how this got started, because I think that knowing how it got started will help give a little depth to this event. And it got started like many of the best entrepreneurial things, with finding out about unmet demand and finding supply to meet that demand, and then finding someone else who could benefit from the supply meeting the demand, pay for everything, which is, I think, a great way to get things started. So I'm a professor here at NYU. I teach entrepreneurial marketing and sales. And more relevant to here, I'm also the faculty advisor for the undergraduate floor for special interest housing for entrepreneurship. And at the beginning of the year, I asked the students what they were interested in for programming for types of events. And they came up with lots of great ideas. And one of them was that they said that we want, and I think I see the student right here who said that, what was interested in more role models that were women entrepreneurs. And I'm not sure, but I think that within my lifetime, a request for something like that might have ended right there. But being an entrepreneur, I have a bunch of friends who are women entrepreneurs, and I asked them, could you come and speak to this floor? And several of them came back and said, yes, and we know lots of other people who could also participate. And so the unmet demand found all the supply. And then we went to NYU and we found this space, which we got here. That was paid for by someone who gets an interest from this community happening. And actually, I think we're limited. We have to have like a 50-50 ratio of NYU students to NYU people to non-NYU people. So I think this event might have been even bigger otherwise. So it's been really exciting to see it take on a life of its own. So I wanted to give that as a background for how this got started. Next, I want to introduce Caroline Moss, who is a reporter for Business Insider. And she's been covering this beat for a while, so I think you know a lot more about this than everyone.
Wouldn't say that, but
We say
I know. Yeah.
And so I'm going to introduce Caroline and get everything started. And I also want to thank everyone who got things started, who organized things. If I start saying names, I'll miss some names. But some of them are sitting over here, and we're around the room. So thank you to everyone for making this happen. Okay, let me not take your time anymore. And here's Caroline.
Hi, everybody. I am very honored to be here. My name is Caroline Moss. I'm a reporter at Business Insider, which is a digital business weblog. Our main competition is the Wall Street Journal, but we really write about everything. One of the best comments I usually get on my stories is, what does this have to do with business? It's great. A lot of what I cover is technology, and because I'm a woman and have an interest in women who are doing some badass things, I tend to want to cover women, and I leave men to be covered by the men on my team, or whoever wants to. I don't really care. So I tend to gravitate towards women who are doing really awesome things. When Grace asked me to come moderate this panel, I jumped at the opportunity. I think it's a really amazing way to learn about other women's experiences, B, get a role model, C, learn something, D, ask questions. So I'm going to introduce these wonderful women before me. Do I need this, or am I loud enough?
I think you're allowed.
I'll just kind of hold it here. Okay. Coco and Breezy, Coriana and Brianna. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Yeah. Okay. They are twins. They are known as Coco and Breezy. They founded their sunglass brand when they were in high school.
Right after high school.
Right after high school.
17. We graduated high school early.
Yeah. So cool. So they grew up in Minnesota. They started designing sunglasses that you couldn't find anywhere else, and people would bombard you on the street asking you where you guys got them,
yeah.
And what did you tell them?
We're like, we didn't know. We're like, we made it for ourselves. We weren't planning on selling them, so we're like, okay, let's start a website.
Did you have friends who were like, hey, I'll give you $30, come back tomorrow with some
It wasn't necessarily our friends in Minnesota, because no one understood it. So when we came to New York, it was random people on the street that were like, oh my gosh, here's $100, I support art. And they would just take the glasses off our face. No, seriously, that's how we got our first rent in New York. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, from what I've read about you guys and from what I know, you guys came to New York City without an apartment, you didn't have a lease signed, and in 1 week, your sunglasses were on GMA and Dancing with the Stars. Ashanti wore them at the Hip Hop Honors Awards, and a couple years later, here we are. You've been featured in Teen Vogue and Women's Wear Daily, Cosmopolitan, Nylon, and Rihanna and Beyonce have both worn your sunglasses.
Yep, and there's more.
Yeah, that's just a small smattering, which is amazing, because that was, what, started 5 years ago?
About 4.5.
How old are you guys right now?
23.
All right, pretty awesome. Jules Miller is here from Hire and Esquire. Hire and Esquire is a software service that basically allows law practices and departments to reach out and employ freelance and like lawyers, correct, Jules?
Correct.
All right, and she is the COO, and she runs the New York office. Before this, she was a consultant at Ernst & Young, and she also helped big corporations like Salesforce.com and Tiffany & Co. By leading their environmental sustainability programs. And she thinks, and I quote, "making attorneys' lives less miserable is a much more satisfying endeavor." So Jules, how did you get started? How did you break out of corporate America?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was always entrepreneurial, but I became an entrepreneur. So I was doing things within firms like starting their environmental sustainability initiatives to the point where I set up my own consulting firm doing that. And I was trying to hire myself out as, you know, and I was hiring myself out on a temporary basis. And my lovely friend of, since I was 14 was a lawyer, and we decided that that was a much bigger business opportunity than sustainability. And so we started this company that way.
Was there any moment that like broke the straw that broke the camel's back, where you were like, forget this, I'm going off on my own?
Yeah, I think it was when I got fired.
Oh.
Which was specifically because, like, I was working really hard, starting new programs, and it was like a big company with lots of internal politics, and it was not, you know, a meritocracy, and I got on someone's, like, nerve because I was doing more stuff and getting more credit than them, and so, well, that's my interpretation of it at least, and I was like, you know, this isn't working for me, it's moving too slow, and that's how the company was born.
So there's a silver lining.
Yeah, you're not a real entrepreneur unless you've gotten fired a couple times.
I'll quote you on that. And we have Alex Meese here from Kinvolved. And what Kinvolved does is, and tell me if I'm missing any element, it basically is an app that keeps track of students' attendance, so that when they go into the school, they're automatically like checked in via SMS, and then parents get a notification that they have. You tell me.
That was pretty good.
Okay.
But a teacher has to do some work still. They have to use their app to record the student attendance, and I was just with some 6th graders the other day and started screaming and yelling at me because I told them that their parents were going to get a text message or email the next time they were late or absent from school. So you guys are a little more conducive.
So basically, when they're not there, they don't get checked in, and then a text gets sent to their parents being like, your kid's not here. Which is like great for parents and probably like sucks if you're a kid and you're trying to cut school. But that's pretty amazing. And you just graduated, or you're graduating?
I graduated from Wagner right here in May of last year.
And now you're located in Brooklyn.
Yeah, now I'm at the Blue Ridge Foundation in Brooklyn.
And you were telling me earlier you have 5 schools now and 2 in Minnesota who are operating with Kinvolved. What are some of the best stories that you've heard come out of schools using your program?
Some of the best or the funniest, or I don't even know where to start, but I got an email the other day from a principal saying she got a phone call from a dad who's down in the Dominican Republic screaming that he heard his kid was 5 minutes late to school. So that was pretty sweet that we are sending text across the world basically. So that was awesome. That was pretty fun.
And we also have Angela Lee, who is the founder of 37 Angels, which deals mostly with angel investors, and the statistic is that 13% of angel investors are women. Angela wants to push that number to be 50%. and she is sort of a woman of the world. This is her 4th company that she started, and she teaches leadership and strategy courses at Columbia, and she's their executive director of teaching excellence, and she has 15 years experience in marketing strategy and innovation. She's been featured on Bloomberg, MSNBC, Forbes, CNBC. She probably knows more than anyone in this room. Angela, can you talk about why it's so important that women kind of get their hands dirty, get into the angel investor scene, and sort of take over?
Wow, that's a big question. I think it's important. So I always like to say that I'm not necessarily pro-women, I'm pro-diversity, right? And so I get asked all the question like, how can I get more female investors as an entrepreneur? And I always say, like, don't have a female on the board just for the sake of having a female. Just recognize that we all add diversity, have different industry backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, and I just think that diversity of thought adds to the quality of the output. There's lots of data to show that when a woman is on a board of a corporate, Fortune 500 company, that those companies do better. And it's not necessarily because women necessarily make better leaders, it's that I think a diverse team leads to a better output. Another statistic that I'll throw out is that companies are much more likely to be successful if they pivot. You guys have all heard this, right? Products pivot 2, 3, 5, 7 times before they're successful. And multi-person co-founding teams are just much more likely to pivot. Again, because you just got a diversity of thought.
Sorry, what's the saying for it to pivot?
Pivot means that, so Wikipedia, which I'm sure you guys all use, started out as a database for academics, like myself and Josh, to upload white papers. And the ask was, and it was just this database purely for academic white papers that were very, very boring, that I'm sure some of you guys have read in class. And then over time, that turned into what Wikipedia is today. So it's just the idea of changing something about the startup into hopefully what's eventually successful. Pinterest started out as Tote. So it used to be a mobile e-commerce play where you would go onto Macy's and be like, I like this sweater, go to Bloomingdale's, I like this purse. And they thought it was going to be like a joint e-commerce app that everybody could check out from. And what they found is that nobody was buying anything. But what were they doing? They were going, hey, look at this outfit I put together from Bloomingdale's, Macy's, and Nordstrom. And that became Pinterest. So those are pivots. That was a very long answer.
No, that's great. I was just thinking about Pinterest now. So I think what I'll do is I'll ask a question. If anyone has an answer right away, you can jump in, and I'll probably just go down the row. And if anyone has a question and wants to just pop in, that's fine too. I think I'll start with, has being a woman made your experience as an entrepreneur different? And I'll reference a story that we did on Business Insider very recently about a female CEO, Una Kim, of Locket. I'm not sure if any of you read this story, but it was really crazy. She owns this company called Locket. It brands the lock screen on Android phones. She was recruiting, and she sent out emails, and a man who she had tried to recruit emailed her back and was like, and I will quote it because I saved it, it was insane. She's looking for people to join her team. She gets this email back from this guy, and it says, I'm pretty happy with my current job, but if you're single, I'd like to date you. Perhaps there are some unconventional ways to lure me away from my company besides stock options, if you know what I mean, with a smiley face emoticon. Now, I think that this is something that women probably face regularly, not being taken seriously, men thinking that their company is cute, or that this is kind of like a fun joke. And I think that putting these stories out in the public eye makes it a topic that we're not able to ignore anymore. So on that note, I'd love to hear from all of you, some of the challenges and some of the fears that come along with starting your own business and being a woman. And I know that's kind of heavy, so if anyone has
I have a good story, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
So not only am I a female, obviously, my co-founder is also a woman, so the two main people of the company are women. This wasn't really an issue. We didn't think it would be an issue until we started raising money. So we just closed a seed round of venture capital investment. Over the course of, actually almost 12 months, we spoke to probably 100 investors. There was a point where we got a lot of feedback, good and bad. Some of it was obvious that it was because we were women in the room. So we had our CTO who was basically exiting the company at that point. We were raising money to hire a new CTO. We brought him to meetings as a booth dude because we would get such different feedback as a woman and two women that when there was a male in the room. So just adding that male dynamic really changed the course of the conversation. Everything from, oh, that's a nice marketplace for working moms, which is what we got when the two of us were just pitching, to, oh, this is going to revolutionize the legal industry. So subtle things like that to very unsubtle things like, you don't need my money, you need a richer boyfriend, to when are you, accounting for, having a baby in your financial projections. These things were ridiculous, and to this day I still can't believe they happened, but they did. And so you do what you can, and we would bring in our male booth dude who we tell him what to wear, we tell him how to the specific things he was supposed to do. It was the same presentation, but it completely changed the dynamic.
I'll answer it as a female investor, although I've been a female entrepreneur and have those stories as well. I think just recognize the biases that people might have about you walking in the door. So questions that we get asked a lot as female investors are, what does your husband do, because you must be investing his money? Or is your network full of rich housewives? And so some of the things that we do to kind of overcome that we are smart money in the room is half of our network is former entrepreneurs. And we do that very mindfully so that we can say, look, we're adding value above and beyond the dollars that we're writing. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Just kind of overcoming that. So know what the biases are for you and just maybe overcome them right off the bat. Okay, I'm done for now, but I'll use it the next time.
Well, I would say for us, I wouldn't say we've been through too many challenges, but I do have a story where there's a guy that, because we do trade shows. I don't know if you guys are familiar with fashion, we do trade shows. And there's a guy who has an awesome brand, and he's like, yeah, do you want to go to lunch? He did sales for a bunch of brands. So I'm like, all right, great, we can go to lunch. So we went to lunch. First started off with coffee. So we went to coffee, it was cool. He's like, all right, we should do a collaboration. I'm like, awesome, his brand is more mass market, we're a different direction. So I was just telling him, maybe we can just design some things. And then it went to all right, let's go to dinner so we can talk more about it. Then dinner ended up with him trying to kiss me. And I was like, okay, we're here for a sales meeting, you're asking me to kiss you? This is not a date. So I was very standoffish. So then, maybe a year later, he contacted me again because now he had his company he got so many orders that he couldn't handle them. So he got a new investor, whatever. So he got this huge distribution, and they needed eyewear in their company. But it wasn't for us to, not for a collaboration. He just needed us to help with production. I'm like, all right, cool. So he has a new office in the city, but I guess it's his investors. He was waiting for us to go meet with them just to figure out costs for production. But then he was like, all right, why don't you just come to my apartment, and then we'll go to my office. But I'm like, I have to work. I'll meet you at your office, when you find out what time we should be there. And then he never called me back. And so I was very aggravated about it because it would have been a great opportunity, but then I'm also not naive either. So I wasn't gonna go. I'm not that thirsty to go to someone's apartment and wait to go to their office. But that was the only thing that has happened to me as far as being a woman in business.
And also too, I think, as you can see, Coco and I are really edgy. We wear this to business meetings because this is us. And I think that there's a lot of people that will judge us being young, edgy girls with tattoos. And there's a lot of people in the business industry that will judge you. They're like, oh, they must be, they always see us oh, you guys probably party, where's the next party at? We don't know where the next party, we're always in the office, in our design studio. I'll tell you when the next design session is, but that's been a huge challenge for us. We've been in huge meetings, and we'll walk in, and the secretary would say, oh, who are you guys meeting with? And we'll say the name of the big boss over the whole huge company, and she's like, oh, I don't think they're with Macy's.
Yeah,
and we went to a huge a meeting of a potential investor, but they had a Macy's headquarters party, and the secretary totally judged us based on our style, and then she realized we were meeting the boss. But I think that we get more challenges not being women, but more so being edgy girls with tattoos in business. But we don't let it stop us, so.
Just to round that out, I'll keep it brief. I feel like I get this question all the time, you're a woman, how's it feel to be a woman? I'm like, well, you're a man, how's it feel to be a man? Like, come on, like, it's the 21st century. But in tech, I mean, the reality is that 3 to 5% of tech companies are founded by women. That is a very, very small number, and I'm one of them, and I feel oftentimes very alone in the room as a female tech entrepreneur. But then when you get the question, I was just interviewed in the latest edition of Entrepreneur magazine. If you flip to page like 72, you'll see one sentence from me. And this was an hour conversation I had with this reporter about how do you feel to be a woman? Like, where do you go for money? You're a woman. Like, do you go to other women? I kept being like, no, I don't call every woman I know on the phone asking for money. Like, that would be weird. And then she quoted me saying, like, I seek out every woman in the room at every event. And I was like, oh my God, I sound like the creepiest female entrepreneur ever. But what Angela was saying is about diversity, and I think going after whom you jive with or whom you relate to on a product level, or whether it's fashion or education technology or what, I try to look past the gender issue as much as possible and see the person for who they are, or hope that they see us for who we are, not just women or edgy women, or I guess a little more like a teacher woman.
Great. The next question I think is more about when you guys got started and sort of when you knew this was what you wanted to do. You had your vision, you had your idea, you had, if you were working with a partner, you had your partner. You know, what is the next step? Like, who do you call? Who do you ask for advice? What books do you read? Like, what did you guys do in those first couple months after you decided, let's try to make this happen?
Should we go this way or go first?
I'll go first. Well, I called my mom, and I said I have an idea for an app. And she's like, what? Like, you don't know what apps are. Because I'm a policy student. I went to school here at Wagner, and I had no intention ever of starting an ed tech company. If you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago, like, you'll be sitting on this panel speaking with other women about your startup, I'd be like, well, that's really crazy. I knew I wanted to do this when, like we were talking about, the pain point that you see in your daily work is there, and it's not going away anytime soon, and you have a solution to that. And that's when I sort of started getting really excited about what I was doing in terms of ed tech work. And I'm starting, like, there's room for eyeglasses and Angela and everything like that. But I saw it when I wrote the idea on a piece of paper, and I know this is cliche, but if you guys have ideas, write it on a piece of paper.
I do it all the time.
And don't lose that piece of paper. And talk to someone about it, and talk to a friend about it, and ask, like, do you want to start this with me? And I sent an email to my current business partner saying, there's a policy competition, like, I have this idea, do you want to start it? And if I never sent that email, we would never have a tech company that's changing lives with kids across the country. So that's my one small little piece of advice for that.
I think we've known that we want to be entrepreneurs since we were, like, in 3rd grade. We were those kids where everyone's, like, parents, like, what do you want to be when you're older? And we're like, we want to be entrepreneurs. Like, it started up with us, like, selling, like, lemonade, or, like, making our own, like, pom-poms and, like, dancing. Like, oh, okay, we'll do a cheerleading dance if you give us $1. Or, like, we're those kids where, like, we even, like, saved all of our money because we wanted to invest in, like, the best toy. We didn't want to, like, spend a lot of money on, like, a whole bunch of, like, little, like, toys that we wouldn't play with. We wanted to invest in, like, the best, like, sketchbooks and, like, the best, like, pens, and, like, we will save, like, 5 years of, like, birthday money at, like, such a young age. And I think that when we were 15, we worked a job. When we were 16, we had 2 jobs each. And when we were 17 and 18, we worked 3 jobs each. And so our work mentality was always there. And we supported our parents since we were 15. And so when we were 18, we loved sunglasses always, because in high school we were kind of like, we got bullied, we were really edgy, and we, like, grew up in the super suburbs. And a lot of people thought we were weird and they didn't understand us. So sunglasses for us were like a shield of protection. It gave us this level of, like, security. We were very, like, insecure and very torn apart and traumatized from, like, people not understanding us. And so we created our sunglasses only for ourselves. And then I was like, Coco, let's go to New York for a couple weeks. And she's like, no, Coco or Breezy, we'll, like, lose our job. I'm like, who cares? Let's just go to New York. So we went to New York for 2 weeks, and literally it changed our life. We were, like, we have to start our company. And social media is actually what really got us out there. Like, when MySpace was popular, like in 2006, 2007, we were those girls that had, like, we were like internet celebrities. It's so embarrassing. But we were internet celebrities. At the time, we didn't have a product, but we already had a huge following. And so,
if you have a big following, you have to turn that into dollars. You can't just be cool with a huge following. You don't turn it into dollars.
And so we actually, like, we just quit our jobs. We sold our car. We moved to New York with less than $1,000, and we started our company. And how I knew the day that we got on that flight, and a lady next to us asked us, like, what are you guys doing here? Like, what are you guys doing in New York? We're like, oh, we're moving to New York. We're 18, 19-year-olds. We're starting a company, and we're going to have, like, Rihanna wearing our glasses, and, like, we're just going to, like, be worldwide. Like, we're speaking to existence, because these are things that happen now, but, like, you would have looked at us like, okay, you guys just graduated high school. How are you going to do this? And that moment, I never had that feeling again, but it was, like, this, like, motivation and this, like, crazy, like, power that we had I've never felt before, but that's how I knew that we had no choice but to be successful.
So in terms of the moment, I still haven't had it. So I don't know that every entrepreneur has to have this like crystallizing, defining moment. I've never had it. So I'll start by saying that. In terms of who I talk to as I'm maybe having mini moments, everybody. Right, so I'm a big believer in run as many experiments as you can. Like you guys have always had 2 or 3 jobs, and 3 of the 4 startups I started while I had a full-time job, so just run all the experiments you can. Good books to help you do that. Lean Startup, I'm assuming most of you guys have read that if you're in this room. Rework by the guys who started 37 Signals is another great one. I think those are kind of the 2 that are my favorite.
Can I just ask you a quick question? Were most of your startups solo ventures or with a partner?
4-person founding team, 2-person founding team, 2-person founding team, 1-person founding team.
Yeah, I kind of echo what Angela says. I mean, basically, we took the slow burn method where we basically started the company and did a bunch of research and talked to everyone while we were still having full-time jobs. So we spent 2 years doing that and building the product while we were still working our full-time jobs. And and to be honest, we were working 2 jobs at that point. We were building the company and working our full-time jobs, and I actually work more now. So if you can't handle that, you can't run a startup. So if you can't do 2 jobs while you're with your nice, safe, secure day job, it's probably not the right career path for you. Again, talk to everyone. We talk to everyone. In one day, we'd hear that's a terrible idea. You're crazy, to that's awesome, it's going to revolutionize the industry. So everyone has a different opinion, but take it with a grain of salt. The books, I mean, I read everything. I went to General Assembly, I would hang out there, I took a ton of classes, I learned to code. I mean, basically just constantly doing stuff to re-educate myself. Some of it was worth it, some of it wasn't. The book that I just read recently that I think every entrepreneur should read is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. Read it, and if you still want to be an entrepreneur, good for you. It's probably your path. If you don't, I mean, it's very not negative, but it's hard. Being an entrepreneur is hard, and some of the stuff he talks about in the book is like I want to throw up when I hear it because it's so real to me and it's so horrifying. But I still want to do it. So if you can get through it and still want to do it, then go for it.
Awesome. I'm going to ask one more question and then I'll probably open the floor if you guys have any questions. If you could offer one piece of advice to students starting out as entrepreneurs, what would it be? Or if you could turn back time and talk to your former self as you were starting out, what would you tell yourself, knowing what you know now?
So I would say get a job first and do your company on the side. Just what I said. I learned a lot about managing people from watching other people manage people. And it might not be your industry, but just learning about organizational dynamics and what works and what doesn't, I think is really important.
This is going to sound weird because I actually agree with everything that Julie just said, but I'm going to say be as lazy as possible. And what I mean by that is entrepreneurs get really excited about the idea. They're like, I'm going to go build a prototype. I'm going to go do whatever. Don't. Find the laziest way to answer whatever question you have. Right? So the example I always give is, instead of building a website on Squarespace or Strikingly or Weebly, which still will take a weekend, go on launchrock.com and build a landing page in 5 minutes, right? Say, this is my product, give me your email address if you want to buy it when it launches. Right? That's a really, really lazy way of testing if your idea has any merit.
And there's a million tools that exist like that today. Don't build a mobile app and put it into the iOS. Go onto App Architect. It's like PowerPoint for mobile apps. You can create a mobile app in like probably a day. You probably can't do it in 5 minutes a week and will not drop. And so I just challenge every entrepreneur just to be as lazy as you humanly.
Like the people that do have jobs, you're lucky that you have money to put it in towards your business in your everyday life. For us, I guess we were straight out of high school and we tried to get jobs. We moved to New York, we really did. Like we applied to like every little clothing store, but then we just been working for Coco and Breezy since day one. So I guess it was meant to be. But I do always tell people that like if you have a job, don't spend your job money on going shopping and buying your Louis Vuitton bag. No, save your money and put it towards your company and your everyday life. Because I feel like when I see like these young people, they're like, yeah, I want to start this company. But then you're using like your steady money that you're getting on clothing, on shopping with clothes, and not with like your company, then that's not like the entrepreneurship mind. And so I think that's very, very important. And also too, I think that you have to be ready to not sleep, but like, we don't sleep. But you have to take care of your body, but you also have to be ready to really push yourself.
I would say that there has to be, especially being an entrepreneur, there has to be a level of passion. Like you have to be passionate because there are ups and there's downs. So the times where you're down and you know that if you want to give up and you just are so over it, it's not your passion. But when it's your passion and you're in your downtime, like whenever Coco and I have an up and a down, we've had ups and we're super excited, but when we have downs, we're just as excited. Because for me, we take that time to just reevaluate the things that we've done wrong and the things that we can do better. Because you're always good, but you can always be better. And so there has to be a level of just like passion. Like we love waking up in the morning. We love our job. We love everything that gets involved. I think a lot of people only get excited for like the up things, like if they get press or if a celebrity's wearing their stuff or like if they get an investor, but they don't get excited for like the downfalls. And really, if it's your passion, you should take that time out to really just figure out. We had a time in like 2012, we had a downtime, and we could have been like depressed, but we weren't. But it changed our life because it really like flipped our business. We really took that time out because our business blew up a lot faster than we ever could imagine. Like the third day it started going up, but we didn't have the time to structure our business. We didn't have the time to like actually think about what our goals were. When we first started, if someone asked, what do you want in 5 years? We couldn't answer that question. And so during our downtime, we actually got to make those goals. Okay, I want to do this in 5 years, or this is who we want to be. This is who Coco and Breezy really are. And so passion, that's key.
I agree with everything that was just said. And I was about to say everything that was just said, so I won't repeat everything that was just said. But I guess, you know, once again, it's sort of cliche, but if you're going to fail, fail fast. And like Angela said, like, please do not go out and spend $1 on something that has not been validated in the market. For us, when we wanted to try out our app, I didn't go and build an iOS app. In fact, I don't even have an iOS app yet, which means that it's available on the Apple's iTunes Store. I have a web application because that's what my budget could afford until now. But when I was getting started with Kinvolved, I went to a hackathon, and a hackathon, I did not even know what a hackathon was. But my friend was like, oh, let's go, like, let's just show up and check it out. And I walk in and I'm like, it's a Friday night, and I was all ready to go out that night. And I walk in and it was a room full of coders with their sweatshirts on and their headphones on, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? But we pitched our idea, and I'm walking out the door, and this guy runs after me, he's like, where are you going? And I was like, oh, no one here wants to code an education app. Like, no one here cares about education. I had all these guys that just wanted to build something for social good. But with that story said, once again, don't be afraid to write your idea down on a napkin, and don't be afraid to go to a hackathon, even if you have no idea what it is. And don't be afraid to just throw your idea out and throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. And if it falls off, that's fine. It's totally fine. Just try again, try another idea. But don't be afraid to fail at all, because that, I think, is a huge, like, lame excuse for new entrepreneurs.
Before I open the floor to you guys, we did have one question come in, and I think Jules and Angela said they'd be happy to answer the difference between doing an LSE business. Maybe I'm asking this question right. Business versus an SE. And Joel said she would take that.
I'm going to give the lawyer answer, which is it depends. And no business is the same. I think you need advice. Most lawyers will give you that free advice if you just talk to them and thinking about starting a business. What would you recommend? Don't sign a contract with them. They will do, that sort of feedback for you at the beginning. Is this working? I think so. So I guess, it depends. Do you want to be a venture-funded business? Do you want to be a high-growth business? Do you want to be a lifestyle business? What do you want to be? All of that depends. So I think you need to do your homework. This is very basic legal stuff. If you can't figure this out yourself, or at least get to a point where you can ask a smart question, you're not going to be able to deal with the more complicated legal issues that come up later.
3 resources for you. LegalZoom has a grid. When to do an LLC, when to do an S Corp, when to do a C Corp. LegalZoom is one. Second resource is ORIC Total Access, ORRICK. Total Access is legal advice for startups, and they have build your own term sheets and lots of great stuff. They have webinars as well that are educational. And then the third resource is Venture Hacks, which also does a lot of this kind of stuff. So LegalZoom, ORIC Total Access, Venture Hacks.
Great, awesome, thank you. I'm going to open the floor up to you guys. If anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
Hi, I want to talk about business plans. Before you all started your company, did you have the formation of an initial business plan? And if you did, if you could talk a little bit about the ongoing revision of that business plan, if you are currently using one.
Can I go first? I would have to say when Breezy and I first started, we honestly didn't have a business plan because it wasn't planned to even start a business. It was more about when we first started, we honestly didn't have a business plan. And the reason behind that is because we just had a product. We didn't have a company. It was more like, oh, we have this cool product and we're going to wear it by ourselves. And then all of a sudden we came to New York and people were asking how to buy them. So we're like, oh snap, we have to start an LLC and actually start a company. But the thing is, it was crazy because when we first started, like Breezy said, I think our brand name grew bigger than our company. So our brand name was very much in demand, but our product line wasn't as, I don't know if you guys remember the crazy studded glasses that Lady Gaga, Beyonce, all those crazy, it was great, but they were a fad. So it was only a product that was very popular, but it wasn't a way for our business to really grow. So at that time, we honestly didn't know what we wanted. And so now our plan is totally different than when we first started because in the beginning our product was only a fad. And you guys know that fads only last for so long. But when we first started, people would tell us we'll go into different companies, and it's crazy because there's a lot when we first started, since we didn't know that we had a fad, but all these big companies would try to invest 50% of our company without putting up any money, and they thought that we were going to be these young girls. What they were looking at was, okay, these girls are a fad. We're going to take 50% of their company, not even money, but they're going to think that it's a great deal. So they're just looking at us it was fast money for them. But for us, we're okay, when we had that downtime, we're you know what? People were right. We did have a fad because people aren't buying our glasses anymore. So we took time out when the downtime was very difficult for us. We took time out to be okay, cool. We need to rebrand. We redid our product, and now we know what we want. And that's when we got to put a plan together. But it did take us about 2 years, because 2 years into the company, it's a total different direction than what we started with. So I think that, like you said earlier, we had to just reboot it, and it's totally different, and we're always going to grow. So besides sunglasses, we're going to add optical and other products as well. But it was hard for us because we didn't really plan to have a sunglasses company. It was more we were putting glue on on safety goggles and studs. And honestly, those glasses only cost us about less than $1 to make, and we were selling them for about $295. So we were really we really made nothing into something.
Just echoing a lot of what you said, I think that business plans are relatively useless at the time of launch. I think go out there, go to a hackathon, talk to a bunch of people about your idea, off some people. I think a business plan is useful when you start fundraising for sure. Investors want to know how you're going to make money, all that kind of stuff. But the first few months, I see these beautiful, amazing business plans a lot of times from business school students.
I'm like, what have you done? Have you been out in the market at all? And they're like, no, but I had this great business plan. It's not anything, right? Until you've tested it with 1,000 customers and some sort of market adoption, it's just an idea on a piece of paper, so just go out there and test.
I've got a quick comment too. Business plans are bullshit. I think that it's not something it's for business school students. Don't do it. The two things you need are, one, you need tools to help you conceptualize and manage the business. So for me, that's my financial model. It shows what factors go into the business and how we're going to make money. And so I actually manage the business through that and update it every month to kind of adapt to where we are. So to me, that's my business plan. The second thing I think you need is some sort of external facing. So whoever you're going to be presenting to, whether it's investors, customers, whatever, you need something that works for them. And through the creation of those two things, you have a plan for your business.
Oh, can I say one thing? Of course. And also too, I feel like with business plans, sometimes it can limit you, I guess, per se. Because if you have some people are so stuck on what's in the books or what's written on paper that you may stop yourself. So if you build this beautiful business plan before you even test the market with your product or whatever the company is, you're going to be so stuck on this business plan on following exactly what it is, because in your mind, people are put into this thing where you have to follow it. But then like what we said and what everyone else has probably experienced, once you go into once your product is tested with the market, what we thought before who our market was is totally different now. 100% opposite. So if I would have went with what our plan would have been in the beginning, our business would have failed all the way. So even if you are steady on going with your business plan, don't be afraid to change it.
More so, write goals.
Yeah.
Write goals, don't write a business plan, but you can write goals for yourself.
I would agree with everything.
You get to start first.
No, by all means, I talk all day. So I would just say one thing that was not said with the business plan thing. Don't be afraid to change it. We literally change it every single day, so it looks totally different from 2 years ago. But use a canvas. It's the new trendy thing, a business model canvas. I used it through an accelerator program I went through last summer, and it was so tremendously helpful. It doesn't drag you down of writing line by line perfect sentences. It's just literally what you imagine, a canvas where you paint things and you throw it on there and either bust your assumptions or prove your assumptions to be true. So I just recommend that instead of writing a 50-page document that no one's going to read until you have some revenue or some customers.
You said that was business model canvas, you said? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a specific app or program that you're using for that, or are you just?
It's through, it's also a lean startup methodology, so if you Google lean startup business canvas, it'll come up. It just goes through all of the integral parts of starting your company, who is your customer. When I started Convolved, I was started this accelerator, and I thought the director of the accelerator was going to throw me out the window. So I said, my target customer is a principal, an after-school program leader, a parent, a student, a teacher, a teacher in Minnesota, a teacher in New York City. And he was like, no! And you guys will all get this once you go through this process. He's you have one customer, and you have to hone in on that customer and know what that customer reads and what they listen to on the radio and what time do they wake up, what time do they go to bed, where do they go on the weekends, who is that? And from there, I've honed down to a teacher that is, I know all the parameters around that one teacher, not every single person in the education system in the United States of America. So those are the types of things that you'll learn through lean startup methodology.
Go ahead.
You're going to start the next question.
Yeah, well, on that note, I just want to know, what's the difference between accelerator and incubator, and are there more aiders that I don't know?
So the question is, what's the difference between accelerator and incubator, and are there any more aiders? So Alex, I will let you start on this one.
That's a great question. I don't know the actual definition of those words, but Angela
should take it if you
I can't answer that.
But I went through an accelerator program. It was a 10-week program that was basically a Kickstarter in starting your enterprise. I had built my prototype. I had done an alpha test. At that point, I was ready to go to an accelerator where they taught you, business development, customer validation, that type of thing. And sometimes accelerators take equity for being part of the program, up to 6% usually, also inclusive of cash in some form, whether it's convertible debt or part of the equity. The accelerator I went through did not take any equity and gave us a small stipend for the summer, so that's something to consider. And then I'm part of an incubator now at the Blue Ridge Foundation, and essentially it's like an incubator. They're incubating us to grow into chickens or grow into beautiful companies. But that is, I guess, from an entrepreneur's working perspective, the difference.
So it came after the incubator came after the accelerator?
For me, yes, it's different for everyone, I guess, and Angela can talk more about the specifics, but the Blue Ridge Foundation, it's a social incubator. They invested in our company, so we're a portfolio company, and they put all of their portfolio companies in the same office to promote cross-collaboration, which I think is pretty awesome. And we're all dedicated to upward social mobility by using technology.
The words are blurring. One used to give money and one didn't. One used to give you office space, one didn't, but they basically mean the same thing now. I just want to say that if you guys want to know all of them, you go to the 37 Eagles website, all the way to the right, there's resources, and we have the 100 or so incubators and accelerators in New York City listed by type. So we have food incubators, education technology incubators, healthcare, whatever the case may be. We also have co-working spaces listed.
What site you said?
37angles.com. All the way to the right, there's a resources tab. We also have glossary, a lot of these terms that we're tossing around. We have resources for women entrepreneurs.
Okay, so this isn't the question you asked, but I have a strong opinion on incubators and accelerators. So don't go to one unless it's really worth your time. We were finalists for 3 incubators. We thought this was what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to like apply to an incubator and then your company gets launched. We were grilling them when they were grilling us, and we realized that this wasn't the right thing for our business. We were 10 years of business experience each. We had a product, we were making money. Giving away 6% of the business was not the right thing for us to do. If you're a little younger and you really need to learn and absorb some skills, that works. But it also has to be the right one for your business, and you have to really grill them on how they're going to help you. A lot of them just kind of let you go after, and you want someone who's going to stay involved as well. So there's this kind of like glamour around the incubators and accelerators, but I think a lot of it is really overhyped and overrated. So don't get sucked into it, and do your homework and make sure if that's the route you want to go, that it's the right fit for you, and you also don't need it.
A great analogy is it's kind of like business school, right? Like business school used to be like you had to go, and now I would argue only go if you can get in. Anyway, business school's a good analogy.
You're teaching at business school.
But I teach at Columbia Business School.
I'm so happy you said that, because Coco and I, we start our business straight out of high school. And a lot of people are like, so what business school did you go to? I'm like, trial and error. It's true.
Do you have any financial advisors?
Yeah, we do. And we have a business advisor as well. So we brought someone on our team to teach us.
When we first started, we were just the artistic girls that knew nothing about business. It was one of those things that all of our material would be laying on the ground, and he's like, this is 2 cents, and this is 10 cents. Anything that we were just messy, and all our material and studs and glue would be everywhere, and he'd be like, that's money sitting on the ground, so he definitely
whipped us.
Oh my gosh, we are breathing our sponges.
He comes to our meetings and he's that hard asshole.
He doesn't have to say anything, he just sits there.
He just sits there and he just gives us this whole glory. And I know if it was just us two, a lot of people won't take us as serious.
Especially because we're young and then we look like this, and so they kind of try to be all sweet, and then when Dwayne's there, he's excuse my language, but he's an asshole. But the thing is, he just likes to get it straight. So now it's crazy because having him on our team, and he talks. One thing I love about him is that the way he talks to us. Because first of all, he's a New Yorker from Harlem, so he already talks hard and accents. And he always sounds like he's screaming. So the crazy part about it is that he'll be yelling at us, and the way we communicate is we're not yelling at us we have no anger. But that's just the way we talk. And I remember when we first met him, I used to cry. And he's like, why are you crying? This is business. There's no feelings in business. So now it's funny because I'm so used to it. So he's like,
his girlfriend would say like, why are you yelling at them? They're women. He's like, no, they're tough cookies. He's built us into these like super like tough businesswomen. But when we first started, we were like super sensitive, and now we have like
the super like tough skin now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How did you guys determine pricing for your products or services? And like, was it through market research, or did you just trial and error and then?
I have a funny story for that. So when we first started our company, our prices were very low. We were like selling our glasses at like $30, and that was the time when we were just doing the handcraft, and everything's produced in like great quality now. And so it was only $30. We had like online. We made like a WordPress back then. That's when it was popular. Then we made like a big cartel. And there's a big blog, because in our field, blogging and like the internet and social media is one of our biggest marketing tools. That's what drove us. Free marketing, we would pay for marketing. And that's what really gained so many sales for us. And it started with $30, and this website did a post on us, and we got like 100 sales in a day. It was like around the first couple of weeks that we started our company. And we hurry up and hiked up the prices. We're like, okay, everyone's buying it, we're getting popular now, let's hurry up and hike the prices.
Because we were hand-making everything.
We're hand-making everything. But the real answer to your question is, it's all about like trial and error, like trying out a price based on who you think your customer is. And we actually really nailed down who our customer was. We figured out that $125 and $275 was the price that people were paying, and the quality for our glasses. We have great quality glasses now. When we first started our company, the glasses were around $65 to like $125, and that's because they're handmade, but they weren't as good as quality. And now we kind of stick to like the $125 to $275, and so really just like based on the quality, based on being true to who you think your customer and what they're going to spend. A lot of people are like, you guys should sell your glasses for like $600. It's so cool, but I'm like, my customer isn't going to pay that amount, and like you really have to like how she was saying, like really nail down your customer and really figure out what is the amount they're going to pay. And we know that that's a really hard thing. It's really trial and error and really just like figuring it out.
And we also need to hit your margins. I mean, you can't,
if a pair of glasses costs $20 to make, you're not going to sell them for $30, because then we do wholesale. That's very important as well. And then also one thing that we did too is market research. So like when we found out who our customer was, we looked at other companies and brands that were similar to the same, that had the same customers. And obviously it's like, how can we make our prices maybe a little bit lower, but still in that same range, so then people don't choose that company and they choose us. So we've definitely like, it took us a while and our prices have like not really jumped, but now we found our steady price that we're gonna always keep.
But we market research, we'll go to stores and go like see other brands and see what they're pricing it for, and we'll just kind of like, okay good, we're in the same range. And there's a lot of, the market's changing now, a lot of high-end designers are actually going down to our price market.
$275 for sunglasses, that's the middle range. Glasses go up to about $600 to $800, so we call ours middle range. And then like the more lower end is like the $5, $10 glasses.
So regarding pricing, I would just say test. And just, I'm glad you guys defined what you meant by market research, because I think there's a lot of good market research. I think pricing is one of the worst things to do market research on. Consumers are really, really bad at telling you what they will pay for something. If you ask somebody, will you pay $80 for this? They might say yes, they might say no. There's very little correlation to how they'll actually behave when they have a credit card in their hand, so don't waste your time doing willingness to pay service, but test it. And the other thing I'll say is do not be afraid to change anything, pricing being one of them. I talked to all these entrepreneurs and they're like, but my X thousand loyal customers are used to me doing this. I can't change. And you need to realize that your customer base is this big and like the world is this big. And there's all these people who have no idea who you are. You can change your logo, you can change your name, you can change your price, you can change your brand. Just don't be scared to do that.
Anyone else have a question? Yep.
Can you guys, I think most of you guys are like co-partners, and I imagine you guys like have a team, you guys talk about that, and like I imagine it's important that you choose like certain people to work with and things like that. And like if you did it by yourself, do you think it would be the same experience?
So for those who didn't hear it, the question is about choosing people to work on your team, kind of the work environment that you have working with more than one person. Everyone talking about that.
So I would say from our perspective, I guess, being a very, very small company, we wear like 1,000 hats in our company. And also, Breezy and I, when we first started, it was very hard for us to realize, like, first of all, we're twins and we're sisters. So it's one of those things where like we're already connected to the hip. And we literally shared a laptop for like our first year. Because we really, and we were very inseparable. We shared a phone, a laptop, and then we were like, okay, we're getting busy, so we need to like separate. Because we used to be very like, it was a serious problem. Like, very, it was like we were very inseparable and very connected to the hip. So we'll both be on one laptop, on our emails, like both on there like that, and then and then we're like, okay, we're getting a little busy, so then we try to like figure out, okay, who's better at what. So Breezy manages, like, she does all of her designing and she manages sales because Breezy is like a sales girl. For me, I just handle all of our business things and do all the marketing. And then Dwayne, who's our business manager, he helps with like all of our operations and like everything. Like me and Dwayne work hand in hand. And then we recently just hired a PR director because I don't have, like, she handles all of our press. And it's more so like her doing all the press for like the brand and, you know, doing the pulls. I don't have time to like chase my glasses down and get them back. And the thing is that she always misses a good part. The first 3 years of our the first 3 years of our company, we handle all of our PR by ourselves. And I think like the 4th year of our company, which is like this year, we realized that we need to really just focus on our designs and really focus on sales. And so it's one of those things where you see what are you lacking, what are things that you feel that if you have the budget to hire somebody, because we still have a million hats that we could be fulfilled, but we don't have the budget to hire those people. And we realized that we really need someone to handle our PR because that was taking up over all of our time. Like we didn't even have time to design. We can't design and there's no product. If there's no product, there's no brand. And so we met with so many different PR companies, and the good thing about wearing a million hats is when you actually hire someone on, they can't they can't do anything behind your back because you already worked it, and you're very aware and you're knowledgeable how it goes.